From UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. A production of iHeartRadio.
Hello, welcome back to the show. My name is Matt.
My name is Noel.
They call me Ben. We're joined as always with our super producer, Alexis, codename Doc Holliday Jackson. Most importantly, you are here, and that makes this the stuff they don't want you to know. It's the top of yet another strange week. People are asking if we are in the wrong timeline. People are impressed and terrified by improvised firearms, and there's much, much more. And we'll get to those stories eventually. But what better way to open up this weekly strange news segment than by one of the favorite questions of mine, and maybe yours as well, Noel. Matt, what's on your mind?
Oh,
huge question for me. It keeps me up nights.
Well, what's on my mind, guys, is whether or not I or anyone else can, quote, summon Bigfoot. That is what's on my mind. Because I've got a story for you guys coming out of Oklahoma. Title is Oklahoma Man Murdered Noodling Partner Who Summoned Bigfoot to Come and Kill Him, according to the sheriff.
You buried the lead there. Noodling. I think I know what this is, but some people may not. This is catching catfish with your fingies, right? Shooting your hand down in there and pulling up a big slimy catfish.
The old Appalachian martial art.
Correct.
You can lose some fingers on that one if you've tried it before. Actually, I've hung with some noodlers back in the day, and our good friend Lyle, who works with us, I think has also done that. That or frog gigging. But be warned,
Lyle
folks,
Noodles? I had no idea. God.
Or he gigs. The man gigs. But the
that guy
the
contains multitudes. Let me tell you.
Yeah, he's an interesting cat. The weird thing about it, though, is it's already a very dangerous thing. Catfish don't play, and if you get a big one, it can take your a finger with it.
That's right. And yes, guys, in this case, unfortunately, more than fingers were lost in this incident. Reading this story, by the way, comes to us from Law and Crime. That's lawandcrime.com. The story is reported in, KTEN, NBC, an ABC affiliate, a CBS affiliate, Fox affiliate, all there in the Oklahoma area. Reading this one because the Law and Crime article had the most information. This is a 53-year-old man who is currently in jail. He was noodling, as you guys were talking about and describing, he was submerged in water with another man. They were both fishing for catfish with their bare hands. I'll just tell you their names. The man who is currently in custody is named Larry Sanders, not from the famous television show with the same name. The other person, the victim here, his name is Jimmy Knighton, Knighten.
It's a cool name.
And yeah, right? There was a press release put out via Facebook by the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation, wherein they detailed exactly what we mentioned in the title here, that the excuse, the defense perhaps, that is being used by Larry Sanders is that the reason why he killed this person, Mr. Knighton, is because Mr. Knighton was attempting to or had summoned Bigfoot. And wow. Bigfoot was going to come and injure Larry Sanders.
The call? Did he do the Bigfoot call?
Story.
Thing? That sounds like a very lame SEAL assassination, but that's what you do. You make a specific vocalization and clap.
I gotta say too, Matt, I pictured it being the other way around, that it was like he sacrificed him in order to summon Bigfoot, but he in fact was afeared for his life because his noodling mate had issued the call or done something. I want to know what tipped him off. Why did he think his friend had done this thing?
Is there like a Bigfoot bat signal? Is that what it is? Did he see a shadow across sky? I love it.
I've got the same questions. I opened the segment with, I want to find out if I can summon Bigfoot, right? I'm going to read you a statement that we're getting from Sheriff John Christian. This is a quote from Law and Crime. Quote, "So his statement was that Mr. Knighton had summoned Bigfoot to come and kill him, and that's why he had to kill Mr. Knighton. And the sheriff adds that Mr. Sanders, quote, appeared to be under the influence of something, which, may or may not lead to the belief that his noodling partner, had summoned Bigfoot in some way.
Is this some psychedelic noodling, perhaps?
Maybe a little bit of amphetamine, just to, help you really focus.
That feels more along the lines of reality to me, Ben, but we can't confirm that. Mr. Knighton's body was found by sheriff's deputies not long ago on Sunday, July 10th. We are recording this on the 13th. And Sanders apparently confessed. He also apparently told some family members what he had done prior to being arrested. What
was the means of the coup de grace, if I may ask?
I do not know. It appears to be, I think the way it was described in this other article is that there was a struggle between the two men.
Got it.
Lord of the Rings, Gollum style, when they find the ring.
That's what I'm picturing too, Ben.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe one of them had the Bigfoot ring. I don't know. I just know that they fought. They for some reason got into a fight in the water, probably, and one of them was killed.
Ben, do you remember when we interviewed the gentleman who has the Expedition Bigfoot Museum out in Blue Ridge? And it was between him and another guy. I might be mixing my stories, but the idea of Bigfoot being a supernatural creature that can like teleport and has all kinds of like abilities. There was a story somebody told us about him running underneath a truck on all fours and like blipping in and out of existence. And now this to me is interesting because I'm picturing it lining up with this idea of Bigfoot being a summonable entity, rather than just a forgotten species of, Neanderthal.
Well, there are ways to summon all sorts of wild animals, right?
This is true.
A higher order animal, like a primate creature, it can be summoned, right? It can be enticed toward an area. I don't know if it's ethical to do that. All you have to do is use the beast lure pot that you have to get a cracked pot to craft it. I'm kidding. This is not an Elden Ring. This is real life. Someone
is this some Elden Ring shit you're talking here?
Actually has died. But the person you're mentioning, Expedition Bigfoot, is David Becerra, and he's the one who told us that in many stories. He's a fantastic guy. He's a true believer too, but he doesn't have a problem fielding some of the difficult questions we posed. He wouldn't kill us, is what I'm saying. He wouldn't kill us if we went fishing.
I don't think so. He might teach us how to summon a Bigfoot.
I'm certain of that.
I don't know. For some reason, when I hear the word summon, I picture like, incantations rather than just like a whistle or your mom calling you home for dinner,
I do too. I imagine the ritual we perform every time we're in the studio shooting with Ben, right? It's sorry. It's an inside joke for anybody who watched that one video. There were about 20,000
Let me out.
Okay.
I was there.
I do want to report back, guys. According to the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation, Sanders reported to them, confessed to them, that he striking, and then he strangled Mr. Knighton. So that was
very Gollum-like. That's like exactly the same way that Gollum went, or the Gollum did in his buddy.
Mm-hmm.
The old strike and strangle.
Yes, I have the same images conjured in my head when I hear the word summon, and I started searching around just trying to find something. Is there a Sasquatch ritual? Is there a Bigfoot, summoning thing, like a potion you could create, that kind of thing? The closest thing I found, you guys, comes from a person named Sybil Kempson, Kempson. She's created some kind of performance titled Sasquatch Rituals. It's produced by Sarah Hughes. You can find it on Sarah Cameron Hughes, HUGHES.com. It's fascinating stuff. I'm going to read a tiny bit from the website here. Sasquatch Rituals is a cycle of performance ritual installations initiated by Sybil Kempson that tracks and responds to her spiral-shaped experiences as an investigator for the Bigfoot Field Research Organization. It begins with the patterns of language Americans use on the internet to describe something they can't explain. And it says the piece contains field observations from a bunch of others and hundreds of witnesses who shall remain anonymous, and research personalities who will become increasingly infamous, I guess is what it says. So really cool because that is a real organization, the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization. You can find them at bfra.net. You can check that out. It's people who are really attempting to find Bigfoot, out there trying to summon Bigfoot when they're researching, generally out in the woods somewhere. And there are all kinds of ways to summon Bigfoot or to increase your chances of seeing Bigfoot, at least according to a website called bigfootsightings.org, which you can check out. This is the standard kind of stuff that we've heard before, you know, the wood knocks, certain vocalizations that you can make. It's even said on this page, yes, exactly. It's said on this page that you can, if you play music and you create an inviting, like, positive, I don't know, vibe at your campsite, wherever you are, you increase the chances that Bigfoot will make some kind of appearance, whether audible or visual.
Yeah, or if you just play the movie Vibes, they love it. They've got great taste in film. And if you want to encounter a Sasquatch, take it from us. Just play the soundtrack of Vibes, just the cool clips, you know, and let us know your results. What method did the local law use to summon Bigfoot for an interview, Matt?
I don't know.
You're saying they didn't interview the Sasquatch?
We don't have a statement from the Sasquatch at this moment.
Well, that's shoddy. That's just not due diligence, I think. Well, I'm just playing around, but I would love the idea of a Sasquatch being discovered via a police statement or a sheriff's statement.
It'd be kind of a bit
it just
of a bummer,
comes out of the woods. It gives a statement.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, the most surefire way to summon a Pacific Northwest Sasquatch is just to roll up and light up a little something, and that smell will waft into the pines, and will carry the Bigfoot like in the cartoons where the smell of the pie on the windowsill kind of carries Pepe Le Pew, you know, by his nostrils. That's how you get a Sasquatch to come hang out with you. You gotta smoke him out.
Oh man,
but not in like a mean way, you know, a good way,
or in a Pepe Le Pew way.
Oh, dude,
hopefully.
Yeah, exactly.
What a
According to liveoutdoors.com, guys, Humboldt County is one of the best places to search for a Bigfoot.
Gee, I wonder why that might be. Yeah, they're known for their.
Let's go.
They're known for their waftables. Yeah, I'm down. This is interesting, Matt. Is this what's next here? Is there something to keep an eye on as details emerge?
Yes. The Office of the Chief Medical Examiner is conducting an autopsy on Mr. Knighton's body to determine the official cause and manner of death. And Larry Sanders, the person who murdered here, is currently in jail in the Pontotoc County Jail. And if he's found guilty of first-degree murder, he could face the death penalty there. So I guess just, you know, we'll try and keep an eye on it. You do the same, and we'll just see what happens. I want to hear more information. I'd love to get more info from Larry Sanders about what he believed was happening.
Especially after being detained or incarcerated for some time. If there's something in his system, then hopefully it will have run its course or flushed out. I do feel like we're having some fun with this story, but I do feel it's very important, as always, to point out addiction is a disease, more so than a crime. It led to a crime if there were drugs involved here. But if you or someone you know is in a bad spot or struggling, then there are many, many resources to contact. You can even write to us if you want, and we can supply those resources to you. I'm a lot of fun at parties.
No, you're absolutely right, Ben. We're joking around a little bit, but this also makes me think of the incident with the two young women and the whole Slender Man thing. How they there was a murder that took place, you know, around summoning of like a malevolent spirit of some kind. And if I'm not mistaken, at the very least, there was some severe mental illness involved in that, if not outright drug-induced psychosis. Well,
there was at least I can't remember, but I think there was forethought because they lured her out.
They thought about it
to that place. With the
but it was a long-term kind of, you know.
But for now, just be careful who you noodle with. We'll be right back with more strange news.
And And we're back with more strange news. This one's really been capturing my imagination in a lot of ways. As we know, we've reported on knife attacks in Japan in the past, and have mentioned that because of the law there, that is very prohibitive surrounding firearms, that's typically what you're going to see, is you're going to see these kind of flash in the pan public knifings, which are horrific and terrifying. But it's just not as easy to kill a large number of people being an individual attacker with a knife as it is with a machine gun of some kind, or an assault rifle, rather. This surrounds the story of the former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, who I'm sure many people have heard in the press was recently assassinated. But he was not knifed. He was shot. And the thing that's captured my imagination most about this is the gun with which he was shot really looks like something out of like one of the Fallout games. It is a kind of amalgamation of pipes and plastic fittings and wires, and it's very DIY. It looks like a prop you'd see at like a Comic-Con or something, with literally someone dressed up as a Fallout character or some kind of dystopian future sci-fi scenario. The guy who killed Abe was a guy by the name of Tetsuya Yamagami, and when his home was raided, law enforcement found a series of these crude electronically propelled pipe guns, some of which were, I think, they were referred to as shotguns, essentially. I think the largest one was like a 9-barrel shotgun, so it's like 3 rows of 3 barrels. And the one that was used to kill Abe, I believe, was 6. But really fascinating stuff. And it's the kind of thing that, anybody who's industrious enough to look up or figure out or, really invent things like this could cobble something like this together. And they're pretty much untraceable. It goes back to issues we have here in the States with things called ghost guns, where you can get these various parts from different dealers that are all under the radar, like on the dark web, and it's just nearly impossible to trace. The thing with legally procured firearms, that they're traceable. There's even like riflings on the barrel that cause like a signature on the bullet, so you can match it to the gun, and the serial numbers and all of that, and registration. I mean, say what you will about the lax gun laws in America, at least it's better than having no paper trail at all. But that's a conversation for another day. But yeah, this whole idea of being able to kind of DIY yourself up a gun that can actually kill somebody is really fascinating to me. And it took the life of this former prime minister in a country where I think gun possession is punishable by life in prison, Ben, if not death. It's very, very, very strict. Ben, do you know a little bit more about the background of gun laws in Japan?
Yeah, you can't buy them at Walmart. That's for sure. That's one thing. So gun laws in Japan are much more strict than they are, in the U.S. You could say that about a lot of countries, honestly, at least on the books. And this has made shootings not just rare in the country, but unfathomable. Keep in mind, too, post-World War II, Japan doesn't have a standing military. They have a self-defense force, which is, kind of splitting hairs, maybe. But that's why this person went and built their own thing. And Noel, I believe that there are tons of theories about the motivations. Thank you to everybody who's been writing to me about these. I've been in some really weird conversations, fascinating ones. But it's like easier for this guy to build something basically than to buy something because of the amount of difficulty. You have to have an all-day class. You have to have a written test. You have to have a shooting range test with 95% accuracy. That's just to get the license. And then you have to have drug test, mental evaluation, like a background check that's pretty thorough. They look at your finances, like how much debt do you have? Have you ever messed with the Yakuza? What are your friends and family like? They try to get it all before something gets in your hands. And because of that, it is easier to build a gun. This guy also, by the way, didn't use the 9-barrel homemade because it didn't fit, I think, the parameters of his mission, as he put it, or something like that.
Right. That makes sense.
There's even a thing here, at least what I'm reading in CFR.org, that you have to report where your weapons are stored and where your ammunition is stored. Like, you have to tell the government that. Can you imagine if that was a rule here in the U.S.?
Would not fly. It wouldn't be possible. It's just not possible.
Yeah, no.
They can't. And, it's just not. Look, and again, we're not getting into a debate about gun laws here. I will, be the first one to say that they're pretty whack. But, these are maybe a little overboard. And somewhere in the middle is maybe where the sweet spot is. But, Japan is a country with a population of 125 million, and there have only been 10 gun-related deaths in the past year. Total, as opposed to what we see here, where there's a new mass shooting every freaking day. It's to the point where it's almost like hard to keep track. So, yeah, it's interesting stuff. And Ben, the whole Yakuza angle is fascinating, because even in Yakuza films, the mythology and the whole glorification of violence isn't surrounding guns. It's usually like weapons, like knives and flails and, samurai swords and stuff. It's not really even, and honestly, if there are movies around Yakuza that have guns, it's usually so over the top and cartoonish as to be almost satire.
Yeah, it's like Aesop Rock always says, fast car, danger, fire and knives. That's like Yakuza style. But also, to me, I was having a really interesting conversation with several folks on Instagram. And one of the things that really stands out about this is there was a minimum security detail. This is an open shot from the back. Apparently, there's no situational awareness. I'm quoting a friend of mine who we're going to keep anonymous here. The shooter took the shot from less than 20 feet, so they're very close, which makes sense for a homemade. And then 2 shots, the first missed.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly find the lengths to which he went pretty compelling in terms of like the ingenuity to build something like this. I mean, again, I don't know. I haven't dug into the depths of the dark web when it comes to schematics or whatever might be out there. There's certainly DIY communities for, say, synthesizers and electronics and like build kits for microphones and stuff. So I can't imagine there wouldn't be that for these types of weapons, possibly, just buried a little deeper, since there's potential for being tied to something like that if you're like on a message board that, kind of trades in those kind of things. But there's weird stuff about Abe himself, like, the motivations aren't clear in particular, but I believe he's been tied to some sort of religious movement that's controversial. And there's some talk that there might be connections with that. As far as a lone wolf kind of situation, who knows? Maybe this is a person acting on the authority of others or part of a small group. But the thing that's also interesting is this really is causing the government of Japan to kind of reevaluate, which is crazy considering how stringent they are, their gun laws. Like, there was a statement from the professor of the College of Risk Management at Nihon University in Tokyo. The AP reported, he said, "This serves as a wake-up call that gun violence can happen in Japan, and security to protect Japanese politicians must be re-examined. To assume this kind of attack will never happen would be a big mistake." And, President Joe Biden said that he believed this had a profound impact on the psyche of the Japanese people, and that it's a different culture, not used to gun violence, as unfortunately we are. So I think this is also a wake-up call, should be, probably won't be, to lawmakers in our country, that this is something that is innate, and that if someone wants to carry out a crime, they're going to go to whatever means necessary to do that. And just making guns so ridiculously available with such kind of meager background checks and all of that stuff is certainly will help. But at the end of the day, if someone really wants to do it, they're probably going to do it. The last thing is that there was some interesting chatter, or kind of a whole, I guess, scandal around some 4chan posts that connected the legendary video game developer Hideo Kojima, who did like the Metal Gear Solid games and all that stuff, and Death Stranding, I think, is his most recent one. But considered like a absolute genius in the field. Some folks shared images of him with the text the far left kills and tying him directly to the assassinations. And again, like these guns look like something out of a video game. So I could see maybe someone posting this as a joke. And apparently someone posted it not as a joke or reposted it. And the person since deleted this tweet and issued an apology saying they naively took a joke as information and was wrong not to check. But Kojima Productions actually released a statement saying that they condemn the spread of fake news and rumors that convey false information and will not tolerate such libel and will consider taking legal action in some cases. Mr. Abe, of course, did pass away after he was shot, to your point, Ben, at relatively close range. And the suspect, Tetsuya Yamagami, has actually confessed to the killing. So I think this is very interesting culturally outside of Japan. I think it's something to definitely keep an eye on and see how this progresses. And with that, let's take another break, and we'll come back with a final piece of strange news for today.
And we have returned with one more story that is probably going to be familiar to many of our longtime fellow conspiracy realists. CERN, the home of the Large Hadron Collider. This thing has been doing some amazing science for a while now. It has also been a regular recurring star in many conspiracy theories. Stuff like, hey, CERN is creating a black hole. Stuff like miniature black holes, or will turning on CERN destroy the Earth? That was a big one, Matt, you remember from our House of Works days. But thanks in part to TikTok, there's a new theory on the block, and you will find tons of people insisting that CERN has actually shifted the timeline, that the world we are living in now has altered in fundamental ways from the world in which we formerly resided. Now, the multiverse as a concept is on everybody's mind. We were into it before Marvel thought it was cool, right? We've all had these really trippy off-air conversations about this. But first, I want to ask, before we dive in, have you guys heard of this? Are you familiar with the CERN conspiracy theory V2.5 2022 version?
Oh, very much. A lot of people on Clubhouse believe this. At least they say they do. I'm seeing it popping all over the place, like you said, on TikTok. I'm seeing even Instagram, like reels, just lots of social media posts about it. Like CERN's gearing back up. You know what that means. We're jumping timelines again. I haven't seen the details, Ben, anywhere. So just what have you heard about what it's supposedly doing?
I only get my news from TikTok, just for the record. So
I only get my news from this old man who lives inside a sewer across the street from me. It's very like It style. I just go over there.
You sit on the back of like note cards and passes them to you. It's amazing.
He's always giggling. Yeah. He's got his ear to the street, literally. But news sources aside, it is important to know where your sources come from. But this all began, the genesis of this begins when, after 3 years of not being active, CERN is turned on once more. And it's not like it was collecting dust. Those 3 years were spent doing maintenance and putting in a number of upgrades. And when CERN was turned on, it observed 3 exotic particles for the first time. So it's doing significant science. They're looking into stuff like the pentaquark, which is a thing that I was unaware of. And then they're also breaking records for the highest energy particle collisions ever performed. And this, like a lot of people heard about CERN in the conversation of the so-called God particle, right? And now it's back in the news, as he said, propagated by social media. I wanted to read you guys some of the thoughts. Here's one from Twitter. Quote, so nobody else is concerned that the CERN collider will be turning on July 5th and opening up a portal and letting some dark-sided come through? And then someone else says, July 5, CERN, it's time to get right with God and protect your energy. Hashtag CERN, just to really drive it home. And then on July 5th, we'll be feeling a sudden shift in the universe. It will feel like we've changed timelines. Do your research about CERN. If you think things have been weird, it's about to feel even weirder. Protect your energy at all costs from negative. Meditate. That one ends with meditate. Let's see. I'll do the last one here. Anticipating the activation of CERN got me feeling some type of way. The gives you the right to be opening portals, and isn't 2022 crazy enough? Sheesh. So what do you guys think?
Sheesh.
Has that changed your mind? Are you compelled?
So my only thing is, what is, I don't understand the assertion that shooting particles, at very high speeds, like you said, the highest speeds that we've ever done that, shooting them faster than we ever had before and colliding them for research. Where does that translate into creating a portal? Is it people's like visualization of portals in video games and fiction, like movies, where the portals are this kind of like oval shaped thing, and they're just imagining that high energy particles doing that will open some kind of portal?
Clearly, you're not up to date on Stranger Things. They explain all the science in the new season. I mean, it's all right there. No, they definitely don't.
Yeah, that's
fun show.
It's
though.
a good question, and fun show. It's a good question too, Matt, and it's one that you're applying some much needed critical thought to this aspect. First, yes, CERN is doing new science. People have not done this before, so it is highly likely that new unexpected things will happen. The question is whether those things will be disastrous or apocalyptic. And the answer, as we found every time we look into this over the years, the answer is no, right? Basically, the answer is that if the world ends, it won't be because of CERN. And I think we all feel all right saying that based on the conversations we've had with scientists, based on the papers we've read and the research we've done. A lot of the quote unquote danger of CERN has been overblown. But what stood out to me is one, there's not a ton of in-depth explanation about how this parallel universe timeline theory would work. But there's also, when I first started looking at it, there wasn't a ton of explanation about why July 5th. Why July 5th, right? My old man's birthday, by the way. So he loved this because he was like, ooh, it involves me somehow. Well, I think you should look into it. And I'm kidding. But it all goes back to a post about a portal of astrological proportions. The original post is something like, be ready for July 5th, everyone. That's all I'm saying. Protect your energy. Be alert. Don't do things that lower your vibration, your energy, or your focus. CERN will be opening a portal on July 5th. They began getting it ready when the planets aligned on June 24th. Does that persuade you?
So wait, so this is an intentional portal opening is the conjecture here, yeah?
Yeah, because the stars are right.
To what
Shades
end?
of Lovecraft.
They just want to watch the world burn or get sucked into a black hole? Like, I don't understand these CERN fellas, what they're up to.
Yeah, it's not really explained, and a lot of the people who are reporting on this theory or purporting to believe it are in disagreement themselves. There's some folks on YouTube who are saying this is a portal to hell, and then you can find lectures about astrology, et cetera, but I would ask how many people genuinely believe this, and here's why. TikTok is a heavily competitive social media environment, which is the most corporate thing I've said today. But it's true. And if you want to succeed, quote unquote, succeed in an environment like TikTok, then you want a video to be shared and viewed many, many times, which means you want to nail something in the zeitgeist. So I ask this question to myself pretty often on social media. When you see a trend of a conversation and it seems like something a lot of people are believing that's kind of easy to debunk, then you have to ask yourself about their motivations. Are they posting this because they want to tell you the truth about CERN or the flat earth or insert here? Or do they want eyeballs and clicks? You know, what would you pretend to believe for millions of views? You know?
Well, yeah, I know exactly what you're saying, and all of that feels very real to me as a motivation for some. But for others, I think it's just fear about this thing that a very select few number of people ever work on, you know, even understand the science behind. And it is, I mean, there's been actual reporting from CERN itself. They make statements. Do you remember back in the day, Ben, when the LHC was first becoming a thing and they put out statements about microscopic black holes?
Yes.
That was one of the big talking points. Everybody was worried about the black holes that this thing is going to create. And they had to come forward and explain, like, it's very unlikely that this collider will create black holes, microscopic black holes. But if it does, here's the science behind a black hole of that size, because of the actual energies that are being produced here, or that the protons contain that are being shot together. And they had to talk people out of a fear quite adamantly, I guess.
Yeah. And it's understandable. It's a rational fear to have. And a lot of it goes back to the way science is reported to the public, right? What makes a headline that elicits an emotion? What compels people to read from one sentence to the next, and so on and so on. But this does a disservice because it encourages, again, a very rational fear to expand, and it doesn't seek to check that fear, right? Because redactions and corrections always run at the back of the paper, never on the front, never where you see the headline. So I know that people are coming from an honest place here, and I want to agree in part with this because we are, our civilization is forging into unknown territory, and CERN itself phrases things in really interesting, intriguing ways. For example, their current run, which is scheduled to run through 2025, is trying to answer several questions. The Times characterized their questions this way: where did the universe come from? Why is it made of matter rather than antimatter? What is the dark matter that suffuses the cosmos? How does the Higgs particle itself have mass? Before he got to that last sentence, he sounded like space villains.
You have seen Stranger Things season 4. That's or at least that person has. This is wild.
Yeah. And of course, we want to visit CERN. I would love to check it out.
Yeah. My God.
But also, I think it
particle.
Do they give tours? Surely you have to be credentialed.
We could maybe have some pull. We could try, pulling some strings, see if we have any juice at CERN, or suction, as they say. But there's another bigger thing at play here, which is just in general the concept of reality. I think that's become an ingredient of the current fear and theories, because the idea of multiple realities is increasingly in the zeitgeist, at least in our version of reality. The Mandela effect, it's something I get questions about increasingly every single month, right? Marvel movies, Everything Everywhere All at Once, which was an awesome ride. They explore the idea of multiverses. Various religions have explored concepts like this as well on a spiritual tip. You have to wonder why people are searching for that kind of, it's like the search for the soul, right? The more you learn about the human body, the less likely it seems there is a soul. But the idea that people continue doing that is, in a way, it's kind of proof of something like a soul. It makes that search even more compelling and strange. So why are people right now obsessed with multiple universes? Do you guys think it's just that everyone's had a really rough 2 years? Do you think it's just the Marvel effect? What is it?
I think it's always been an interesting plot device. Well, that's a good point. We're reaching critical mass, perhaps. But I mean,
yeah, it's a tornado, boys.
But I mean, Matt, you're into the Invisibles and a lot of the weirdo kind of alternative comics and stuff. And Ben, I know you are too. We all are. But I mean, that's always been an interesting plot point in books like that. is alternate universes and alternate dimensions and traveling to, you know, places where there's like bizarro world versions of yourself, or hell, even like Back to the Future. You could consider time travel being like alternate timelines. I think it's just part of our upbringing, you know, pop culturally speaking.
Well, yeah, and we're simultaneously the most connected we've ever been, or feel like we're the most connected we've ever been to everyone, and the absolute least physically connected to anyone. Dude.
You're so right.
And then when, you know, all this, like this terrifying stuff is happening around us and on the horizon, it always feels like something new and awful is on the way that just kind of piles on top of the last thing. It's just our anxiety is at maximum right now, I think.
Yeah. The motto of the year 2022 is simply, what now? You know what I mean? Like every time you read the news, you have the what now moment. Every time I cross the street and talk to the creepy guy in the sewer, who is again my only source of news, it's a what now situation. And people are, I think, of course, news is incentivized in many ways to be negative, which I think is a woeful miscalculation. But because of that paradoxical connection you're talking about, Matt, people are more aware of things they ordinarily would not have been cognizant of, right? So they're seeing more bad news. It's not necessarily true that more bad things are happening. It's just that the average person is more likely to be informed about them. And that's a good thing overall, but then it also creates all kinds of feedback loops, all kinds of increasingly extremist beliefs, arguments, and viewpoints. I don't know. I think humans know so very little about the nature of reality that it would be somewhat arrogant to say this is the only one, wouldn't it? You would just, what are you going off? Vibes? You going off vibes? And you're like, I think this is it. This is the one.
Reminder to go and rent Vibes if you can on the streaming service of your choice.
Have you still not seen it, Matt?
Nope.
You're the odd man out here? I think Ben and I both. Ben, you've been screaming its praises for years, and I finally watched it, and I found it to be quite a romp and very relevant to just about everything we talk about on this show.
No, you're right.
Jeff Goldblum calls it the reason he wakes up and acts. In another timeline, that's what he calls it. There we go. This is like the new rhetorical device we're going to use. But at this point, you know, because this brings up so many questions, some of which people can't answer, similar to Blake Lemoine's conversations about lambda and the nature of sentience and the soul, since it brings up these unanswerable questions, we would love your perspective on the idea of multiverse, like a multiversal structure of reality, parallel worlds, timelines. Can they be disrupted? A la that Community episode, which is still great, actually. Let us know.
Is that the one with the pizza?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a good one.
We got memed on that one. So thanks, Holly, on Here's Where It Gets Crazy. What do you think is up with the assassination of former Prime Minister Abe in Japan? And what are your tips for summoning Bigfoot? We are all ears, and we can't wait to hear from you. We try to be easy to find online.
This is true. You can find us online. We are Conspiracy Stuff on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitter. On Instagram, you can find us at Conspiracy Stuff Show. There are also other ways to reach out to us through the void of time and space and excluding the internet even. You can give us a telephone call. That's right.
That's right. Send your voice across the expanse and into our ears. Just dial 1-833-STDWYTK. When you call in, first thing you do, tell us what your name is. That just makes it easier for us to log the call. Please give yourself a nickname so it's not your real name, if possible, unless you really feel adamant that you gotta put your name in there. You've got 3 minutes. Say whatever you'd like. Do include at the end of that message whether or not we can use your name and message on the air. And if you don't like using the phone, it's okay. We get it. You can instead send us a good old-fashioned email. We are
conspiracy@iHeartRadio.com.
Stuff They Don't Want You to Know is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.